Welcome back to Portimao in the Autodromo Internacional Algarve. It is already a very exciting and very intense weekend in the EUROCUP-3 Championship 2025. This has already been an exciting one that's seen 3 different race drivers take 3 different race victories in the first 3 races of the season. At the Red Bull Ring, Matej Kolnagi and Maciej Gladic were our winners. In race 1 earlier today at the Algarve International Circuit, well, it was Jesse Carrasquedo, the Mexican, who stepped up to the plate and added his name to the winning tally. Now, this weekend here in Portimao, we're going to do something a little bit different. Normally, it's 2 races, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. But for this round and the next round at Paul Ricard, we're adding something a little bit different. For these 2 rounds, like we did in the Winter Championship at the beginning of the year, there is a 3rd race this weekend, which is a sprint race, very much reduced in duration. The normal championship races in EuroCup-3 are 30 minutes plus 1 lap. Well, this sprint race is 20 minutes plus 1 lap. It's 10 minutes shorter than the normal race would be. And there's also a different point system to take into this one. The top 10 still score points, but instead of the same Formula 1 point scoring system that we're used to, with 25 points for the win, then 18, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1, we now have 10 points for the victory, 9 for second, 8 for third, all the way down to 1 point for 10th position. So it's going to be a much tighter gap between the drivers who come first and through to 10th position. That means there's fewer points on offer for this race, but that means that there's a less of a risk for drivers going for a move here or there to go for 6th or 7th position. What that does mean is it gives us a very different type of race, but also for the mechanics, they've still got the onus on the drivers to make sure they look after the car ready for race 2 tomorrow. The last thing they want to do is bend the chassis in this 20-minute sprint race, and then the car is going to be difficult to set up again for the qualifying session tomorrow. So the teams know, obviously, that for these 2 rounds of the championship at Portimao and Paul Ricard only, they've got this 20-minute sprint race in addition to the normal 2 races, but they've also got 20 more championship points on offer for each driver. And that means that the drivers themselves will want to push perhaps a little harder than the teams would want them to. And that means that there's going to be a big propensity of risk. Suddenly having these 2 sprint races and 20 more championship points on offer, 10 points for the win on both, means that there's 20 points more available for a race driver. And that could be the difference between winning and losing this championship. So the teams have got to factor in that the drivers will be going hell for leather and they'll want to pick up as many points as they possibly can. But who's to say when you've got 20 points available from the race here and then again the race in Paul Ricard in total, that could definitely spice things up championship-wise. So are we going to get a 4th different winner from the 4th race on track this season? We're about to find out as the drivers will head out onto the starting grid for the beginning of this very different type of challenge that the drivers will have to face. And considering how difficult it's been in the championship fight already for the likes of Maciej Gladic and Matej Kolnagi to continue their revolutionary pace from the Red Bull Ring, expect the unexpected here in the sprint race. It'll be an interesting one and certainly an interesting challenge. I'm Jake Sanson. Alex Garcia is down in pit lane. There's a lot to talk about going into this one because this is the first time in the EuroCup-3 Championship main season we have ever had a sprint race. Alex, obviously from the Winter Championship, this was always an interesting extra chapter to add into the narrative. What can we expect from this 20-minute race?
Hello again, Jake. Hello, everyone. Yes, this is definitely new for these drivers in terms of the regular season. But even though we already have this experience from the Spanish Winter Championship, things have changed a bit. The point system is different from the Spanish Winter Championship as well. You've touched a little bit on that. And also, the reverse grid is formed with the top 12 and not the top 8 drivers, which makes a little bit more sense as well now that we have a full grid with 30 cars participating this weekend. But this still means that we have a little bit of a difference in terms of who is actually going to be starting in the first few places. Qualifying in 8 is definitely very, very different from qualifying in P12. So this spices things up a little bit more, I think, for this sprint race, which has, I think, all the elements to be pretty exciting. As you said, Jake, drivers will be perhaps a little bit more eager to take risks, but the teams will have to temper those expectations and, you know, be like, tell them, don't take too many risks. A broken car needs to be fixed, needs to be set up again, and not always you get that damaged car to run as well as it used to run before the crash. So that's something that they will have to look out for. Of course, work is already getting underway in the pit lane, and soon teams will be ready to go out on track. We do have a little bit of a delay, as people will surely understand when we have a long day of races, such as we've had here in Portimao. There's a little bit of a carryover when there's any kind of red flag in qualifying sessions, if there's any kind of small delay in the race starts, it all carries over race after race. So we will have a little bit of a delay, but soon teams will start going out on track and drivers will start doing their installation laps.
Well, look, Alex, as we've got this delay, let's use it as an opportunity to sort of assess how things have changed from Red Bull Ring in Austria to here in Portimao in Portugal. It's been quite a dramatic change in the format. Last time out, it was MP Motorsport all the way. This time, Campos have turned the corner and now they are the team to beat. What is it about the difference of the nature of these two circuits and possibly the fact that Campos have had a bit more time to get on top of their homework from last time? Why are MP struggling to hit the front the way they were in Austria?
Well, I think, Jake, if I could answer that question, I would probably be working with MP Motorsport guys rather than being here with you all. So I think it's good news that I don't have that answer because I love being here with you. But no, definitely, there's a few things that we can probably point towards. The tracks are obviously very different. Red Bull Ring is very much a start and stop circuit, whereas Portimao is it flows a bit better. There's a lot of long corners. A lot of ups and downs. So the nature of the track is very different. The temperatures are very different today and yesterday, and of course tomorrow from what we saw in Red Bull Ring as well. And sometimes, I'm not saying it is that way, but sometimes when you have a car that works very well, you don't touch it too much because it's working well and you don't want to make too many changes. And if you're behind, you take the risk and you make changes, and that's potentially what Campos has been doing. They were behind a few weeks ago and they had to work on it, and it's worked well for them, and they're now ahead. What we can expect is probably MP Motorsport now taking more risks, and the whole cycle starts anew. And the pendulum swings from one side to the other. And to be honest, that's how it's been in EUROCUP-3 and in Spanish Formula 4 Championship for the last few years. It's always MP, Campos, and the weight swings from one side to the other, which I think makes it very, very interesting. The only thing I would love to see is one or two more teams really getting in with their homework, doing it well, and joining Campos and MP on a regular basis. We're starting to see some signs of it with some teams, but I think we need to give them a little bit more time to see if they can make it. Palou was doing great, Palou Motorsports in Red Bull Ring. They could do something on one of these days.
Now, there's another thing that I want to touch on a little bit, because this weekend, obviously, we have 3 races. Next time out at Paul Ricard, we're also going to have 3 races. But for the next 3 rounds of the championship, we're going to have a very different style of race circuit to what we've had at the Red Bull Ring and at Portimao. It's all about elevation and camber changes. The next 3 circuits on the calendar, Paul Ricard, Monza, Assen, all very flat, all very, very easy, fast circuits to go for. In terms of the setup strategy, they're not going to be thinking so much about changes of elevation and ride height. It's going to be more about pure speed. So what do the drivers that are a little way further back in the pack now going to have to be focusing on for those next 3 weekends? Essentially, that's their chance to catch up with a potential 7 races that they can really use to their strength.
Yes, exactly. Basically, everything that worked in Red Bull Ring could potentially work in Paul Ricard, in Monza, in Assen. Assen might be a little bit of an outlier, just because it's not a circuit that we've seen being used in car racing throughout the last few years. We saw it a few years ago with Formula Renault or Renault EuroCup. Ironically, it is from EuroCup to EuroCup that we come back to it. But it is not a very common circuit for car racing, so there's not so much data that the teams will have available. But for Monza and for Paul Ricard, for sure, we know that cars will be very low to the ground. Setups will be probably very rigid, and especially in Monza, attacking the side of the track will be tricky, because we know that the more rigid the car is, the less it wants to be upset in terms of jumping over a curb. So that's something that they can do here. They may not be doing so much in Paul Ricard and in Monza. I think in Assen this will not be so much of an issue because the curbs are very low. They are mostly used for motorbike racing, and they like lower curbs, so that won't be an issue. But yeah, it is definitely going to be an outlier. Anyone who goes fast in Assen may not necessarily go quick in other circuits, and the opposite is true. Someone who's struggling here may find themselves suddenly clicking with that track. But I'm really excited to go there because it is a unique racetrack, not one that we've seen too many races. So it's always interesting to see these single seaters, which I think look fantastic, going on one of the legendary European circuits, even though it is more famous for its two-wheel racing for sure.
I quite agree with you. I think it could be a real interesting venue to add to the calendar in terms of what it could do for the championship. I used to love watching them on the couple of occasions they went to Champ Cars to Assen about 20 years ago, but that just shows you how old I am. We've got the 20-minute race coming up for the sprint.
I remember those as well.
You remember? Oh, fair enough. We're both in the same pool. Now, this reverse grid, we talked about it a little bit earlier on, Alex. Now, with the top 12 reversed for 20 minutes, James Igotzi and Alex Abkasava now find themselves on the front of the grid, and just in the outer skirts of that top 10, we've got Matti Kolnagi 7th, who might actually pick up some decent points on Jessica Deschado and Kasper Stuka, who are now back in the 6th row of the grid. But get this, we've got Kasper Stuka and Maciej Gladish now next to each other on the grid, 12th and 13th place. The two poles could actually settle their differences and work together to go through the pack. Now, that dynamic could actually be one of the most exciting aspects of this coming race. And we know that both drivers are fired up for moves. We saw how strong Stuka was in race 1 when his back was against the ropes. So could we see some great overtaking from a couple of Polish stars in this one?
I think so. They've proven that they have the pace. We saw that in race 1, and we saw it here in qualifying and in free practice. They're good. They're comfortable on the circuit, and we know that things can be done here. Overtakes can be done. The only key is that we've seen safety car presences, a few too many, or one too many, perhaps, in race 1. And 20 minutes, they pass very quickly. And if there's any kind of interruption, the race is going to become suddenly very, very, very small. So I think the key is to have a good start. They will all be pushing hard because they know that. They know that any interruption is going to reduce their chances at any recovery. So look out for that start. And if the start is clean, then definitely, yes, we could see some overtakes taking a little bit more time. But if there's a safety car right away when we have a restart, oh man, things are going to get really spicy because drivers are impatient, and these races are the ones that promote that impatience. We saw that in the Spanish Winter Championship, and I don't think it's going to be much different now.
I actually wanted to touch on that while we've got the time as well. The pit lane's going to be open in 2 minutes' time, so they'll head out onto the circuit very shortly indeed. From where you're stood in the paddock, Alex, the difference in the atmosphere between Red Bull Ring and Portimao. At Red Bull Ring, we had two very clean, very, very fast and very, very aggressive races, but we didn't have any safety cars. We didn't have major shunts. We didn't really have any driving into each other. The first race of this weekend, already we've seen 2 safety car periods. Now, is there a difference in the air? Is there a tension shift? The drivers now starting to feel like if it didn't go right in the first weekend, then it's all or nothing. You've got to try and make it work in this second weekend. Or is it just the way that the Portimao circuit is? Is it just a different feeling? Would you say that there's a sense of a change of atmosphere in the paddock from round 1 to round 2?
I think it's a little bit of both, really. I think with the first round, there's always that kind of feeling where, yes, you want to do well. Everyone wants to do well on that first round. But everyone is still sort of relaxed. It's the first time from when you come back into the championship. You don't want to crash things out. You don't want to cause trouble. You just want to score points. But you need to figure out where you stand in relation to the other drivers and the other teams. So nobody necessarily takes too many risks. We come here to Portimao. The circuit, I think, is more prone to those kind of actions. It is, in some spaces, a little bit more narrow in terms of apex. So that kind of makes things difficult. The elevation change definitely makes things a bit trickier for the drivers in terms of visibility. So same risk, but with more elevation change. There's risk in that. But also drivers just suddenly find themselves thinking, well, you know, this so or so has this momentum and I have to react to that. And if I don't, then things are going to start to become not so nice for me or for my team. So there is a certain tension, not like we will probably see by the end of the year, but there is definitely a bit more, like a quiet tension, I would say, compared to Red Bull Ring, where everything was just, jovial smiles all over the place. So there's definitely a bit of that. Keep in mind also the temperature is different, so it is the first hot race of the season, of the year, if you want. So that's different. Teams are not necessarily yet still to grips with those hot weather settings, and that means that some drivers are maybe not as comfortable with the car as they might have been in the Red Bull Ring, where the conditions were more similar to the Spanish Winter Championship. So there's that as well. But yeah, no, definitely drivers are pushing each other hard. And I think, you mentioned this before in race one, the veterans are starting to see that the rookie performances were no coincidence. And that's probably going to get them a little bit more nervous now.
Yeah, especially considering going into this race, the reverse grid actually gives us a nice crop of the experienced drivers in the top five. We've got Alex Abkasava second alongside James Zigotzi. We've got Valerio Rinicella, third position. He and Alex Abkasava have got to be favourites coming into this one. We saw how strong Alex Abkasava was in the races last year when he took the victory here in Portimao off a fantastic restart with Bruno Del Pino. Valerio Rinicella, third position. He has that year experience behind him. Garrett Berry, the American, has been threatening to get a podium finish followed by a victory under his belt for quite a long time now. And the potential for him and the Santadoc team to break through and get a victory in this season, when it's been looking so unlikely from the start of the year, they've got to be focusing all out or nothing for a race victory, surely.
Exactly, and of course there's the penalty that he has after race one. We're talking about Garrett Berry, of course, from that situation that happened in the middle of the race where he caused that crash. So he's going back from second to fifth place on the grid, but fifth is still not a bad place to start if you're aiming for that podium finish. He had the pace in the Red Bull Ring. I was talking to him yesterday and he was quietly confident. He was saying, I think we have a car that may allow us to get into the podium. That's definitely our next goal. So that would be interesting. It's what I was saying before. Any other team that joins that battle at the top between Campos and MP would be super welcome, because I think that would make the championship, the series, more plural. And we always like having more drivers with possibilities of winning, of fighting for those top positions, because they make everything more exciting. And I think for us, that's always a plus.
Totally. I think there's going to be a lot of variables in this particular race, with it only being 20 minutes as well. I think the driver's sense of urgency is going to accelerate. You've got to look at people like Gladish, like Colnaghi, like Carranza, Tarmadichko, Rivera. They all want to score big points here, and there are not that many points available. So when you consider that second position is worth 9 and 10 is for the victory, there's only 8 available for third, all the way down to 1 for 10. There is a sense of urgency, but at the same time, there's got to be a sense of caution in the opening couple of laps. So many drivers in that top 6 for this particular race. Abkasava, Igotzi, Macedo, Andres Cardenas, the Peruvian. A decent finish here is so important in terms of their psychological and motivational upper hand. There's a lot of drivers who can use this reverse grid 20-minute sprint to their advantage. For the championship contenders, it's actually quite important that they stay out of harm's way. Look at Stuka and Gladish. They're in the thick of it going into this this second race of the day. And Jesse Gadishkado, fresh off his first win, he's right in the vanguard of trouble. It is not going to be easy for them to stay out of it.
Exactly, and you have to keep in mind as well that Mattia Colnaghi had a penalty after race 1, and so he has lost that, I think it was 5th place that he had, which were good points considering the difficulties that MP has been experiencing so far this weekend. So with those points lost, now that means that getting points here is more important, but at the same time, losing points here could become even more important, could become even more of a problem. So I wonder just what is the mindset like in MP Motorsport with Mattia? Because they will have to tell him, take a risk, but don't take too many risks. Because if you have 2 zeros, then that's a big problem if you're fighting for the title as he is. So there's a tension here. Definitely, it is lucky for these teams that they have that experience from winter. But my word, I think that it's going to be a tense one, because they have that to look out for. As you mentioned, Jake, they have to get points, but they don't want to take too many risks. Now, will we have a race that is a bit quieter than we expect because of that? Or will drivers actually just give it their all and go all out? That could also be. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued because we will have this one and we'll have another one in Port Ricard. So whatever we see today here should show us what we can expect next time out. So
yeah, it's very hard actually, given the system and the format change with this additional 20-minute sprint, whether this is going to be a tame procession with not a lot of overtaking at all, or whether this is going to be a do-or-die race for guts and determination and glory. Looking at the tyres that the guys are going out on, though, they are going out on scrubbed slicks rather than fresh sets. So they're going on worn tyres in many cases. Now, that's another thing that's important to note. There are going to be a few drivers here, Alex, who will take advantage of having a fresher set of tyres on now compared to going into the race tomorrow, because when you've got a third race, tyre strategy and tyre choice is critical. If you've got a chance to get a fresh and strong result on the board, this is the time to do it, because if you've got a car that can take you a little bit further into the race, then you obviously want to take full advantage of that opportunity. But this is not an easy one to gauge, looking at the fact that they're going to be in the same starting grid positions other than the top 12 than they were in for race 1. There is so much at stake here, and a few drivers will want to put a fresh, clean set of tyres on to try and score as many points as possible, whereas others are literally just running this 20-minute race to its conclusion and preparing for qualifying to tomorrow morning. It's going to be a fascinating narrative.
I can imagine that perhaps the drivers in the first 2 rows of the grid might consider taking those fresh tires just to try and run away with it from the get-go, because that would help them secure those points that they, in a sense, it's easier for them. And you might have some drivers around the top 10, 5th row, 6th row, that they could try to consider those tires just to try and regain positions and try to squeeze as much as possible out of this race. However, I think row 3, row 4, those drivers might just choose to go for scrap tires just because they're in a position where it's just a bit too risky to go for any kind of aggressive move. And at that point, I think you're mostly going to want to stay on track, wait for things to happen, and wait for the race to come to you, which in EUROCUP-3 we've seen sometimes is the strategy.
Yeah, so for those who are only just joining us, apologies for the delay. We've had some slight logistical challenges with the previous race before this that have delayed us in getting out onto the pits. But let's talk you through the ins and outs of this sprint race. It's a very different format of race compared to what EuroCup-3 fans who've been with us from the start are used to. It's a variation on what we had in the Winter Championship at the start of the year. Instead of the 30-minute race plus 1 lap, from which the grid is set by the qualifying session, well, this sprint race is the same starting grid as race 1 earlier, with the top 12 positions on the grid reversed. So that means that James Igozzi is going to be starting on pole position. Garrett Berry would have been starting on the front row of the grid alongside him, but a 3-place grid drop after race 1 means that he will start 5th rather than 2nd. So Alex Abkasava, the Kazakhstani, who was out in race 1 and was a race winner last year, will join James Igozzi on the front row. The only real major difference in format from the sprint race to the previous races is that the duration of the race is 10 minutes shorter than the normal races are. So it's 20 minutes plus 1 lap rather than 30 minutes plus 1 lap. There are still top 10 scorers available in the points, but it's only 10 points for the win, with 9 for 2nd, 8 for 3rd, 7 for 4th, 6 for 5th, 5 for 6th place, and then 4 for 7th, 3 for 8th, 2 for 9th, and 1 for 10th place. There is also a championship point available as well for fastest lap, but that's it. There's no second point available for pole position. So technically, there's 11 points up for grabs here in this race, Alex. Nowhere near as many as there would be in a normal EuroCup-3 race. But because you can still take 9 for 2nd place, perhaps there won't be quite that sense of urgency from grabbing a sprint race victory. But then, these are young teenage racing drivers. A win is a win is a win.
I think that is the crux of it, really. These drivers just want to win at everything. If you run around the paddock and you find them playing tennis, they definitely want to beat each other. You find them playing football, they're trying to outscore each other. And if I think you gave them a quiz on Formula 1 history, they're still trying to outdo each other. So definitely in a race car, it's going to happen. And when there's points for grabs, come on, that's an obvious one, isn't it? It's the teams that will be trying to temper them down and say, don't take too many risks, don't risk the car, don't break it, we have to use it tomorrow. So I think if it's the drivers, they'll just go all out. If it's the teams, we'll see who manages to stop them. But no, yeah, definitely there's a sense of urgency from the drivers at least to get those results. And especially considering, as I said before, we have 20 minutes. They know that as soon as there's a safety car, things are going to get very tight. And we've seen that in the Spanish Winter Championship. When there was a safety car, suddenly drivers became very overeager, very anxious to get past people. And that brings us to the good old adage from United States, which is yellows breed yellows. When there's a caution, when there's a safety car, everyone gets bunched up together. All the cars there end up in the same space, and too many cars in 2-liter space usually means trouble. So that's what we're looking out for. We're looking out for as well for the tire choices. We're watching James Igozzi with scrap tires, so those are not new tires. From my point of view, I think Alex Abkasava is also opting for used tires. I would have to get closer to show you, and we can do that because we'll still have a few minutes. So we could probably walk down the grid and see exactly what those first few drivers have in their cars, and that would give us an idea of what we can expect. But as we said, James Gotzi has those scrap tires. We can see some of the marks that those tires have been used previously. If we get close to Abkasava's machine, I think those might actually be newer tires because they do not have the same wear that we've seen in the number 48 machine. So that's something to keep in mind. And if we're looking for third place with Valerio Rinicella, we also have some used tires. So look out for Alex Abkasava because he knows what it's like to win here. And considering that and considering the tire choice, he might have a chance in here.
Right, you say that, but having looked at the way that the car is being set up, they've just had the engine cover off there, Alex Garcia, and we just saw the 5-minute board go up. So they're not just concerned about tyres, they're also clearly concerned about setup. Is there a potential maybe that we could have a more dramatic start to this race than we originally thought we were going to have?
We're hoping we don't have that much drama, but definitely it is not usual to open the engine cover this late into the proceedings. I can see now that everything is properly put back together, of course, and Alex seems to be more in a focused mood than anything else, so I would have to expect that things are fine. But definitely at least there were some checkups. We have to remember that sometimes it's not necessarily that there's a problem. It is more that there might be a situation where the driver has noticed something strange or someone has seen something that doesn't feel right, and it's better to check and make sure, double check, make sure that everything's fine, and rather than, starting the race and proving that something is wrong.
So final interesting topic matter. We've got 3-minute board up and the grid is being cleared. Final real debate and subject before we go into this 20-minute race. The pace has been with Campos since the start of the weekend. We saw the first 5 cars on the grid in the previous race were Griffincourt and Campos. All the way this weekend, they've had the pace. Now we suddenly go to a 20-minute sprint and the roles are reversed. The Campos cars are going to be 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th on the starting grid, with Macedo now leading the charge for Griffincourt and Campos in P6. We've got the MPs of Abkasava, Rinicella and Cardenas, 2nd, 3rd, 4th on the grid. The Santaloc of Garrett Berry is in there, but the Palou of James Igozzi, pole position. That's their chance for the first ever victory in single-seater motorsport for 3-time IndyCar champion Alex Palou's team. They are on the cusp of history here. Even if it's only a sprint race, they will still take it. And James Igozzi is going to be a very tough man to beat. Do we think he has the composure, the tenacity, and this sense of discipline to be able to hold off the likes of Abkasava and Rinicella, who look like they're going to be on fresher tyres?
I think he can do it. He showed during the Spanish Winter Championship that he had the pace to do it. He had the mindset as well. He had the mental fortitude to defend when even drivers behind him were quicker. And we know that the team has made a good leap forward during the winter. They've done some very interesting signings, even from ex-F1 personnel into their team, into the engineering team. So they're definitely investing, they're definitely putting in an effort to try and catch the big guys. So this is one of the days that they have to prove that they can do it. They're starting at the front, they have some good pace, and if there's a chance to win, you have to take it. So, of course, it's going to be hard. This is not a circuit where overtaking is that difficult that it cannot happen. So he will still have to defend, but he's starting with the advantage of being at the front when the race starts. And in a 20-minute race, I think that is at least 50% better than at the normal race.
Okay, Alex, stand by for action. We got the green light and the formation lap is underway. Gracias, mi amigo. We'll come back to you as we need you. Well, 20 minutes plus 1 lap. For the first time in EuroCup-3 main season history, a sprint race. A reverse grid where the top 12 from race 1's grid is reversed. Garrett Berry getting a 3-place grid penalty, the only adjustment to that. And for the first time, Palou Motorsport on pole position with the rookie James Igozzi. Can the fantastic season for Alex Palou, which has already culminated in 3 IndyCar Championship titles before this year, 2021, 2023 and 2024, but then going into the season in IndyCar where he has been dominant and, of course, taken the Indy 500 success that eluded him before. Now, as a team principal, can his team, Below Motorsport, grab their first single-seater victory here at Portimao in the EUROCUP-3's first ever main championship sprint race? 10 points are on offer. James Igotzi in pole position. The young man from Hollywood in Florida in the United States, not Hollywood, California, but James Igotzi with a chance to make history for his team. He's on pole position alongside Alex Abkasava on slightly fresher tyres by the look of it, and the man who took a race victory last year in very dramatic circumstances. Valerio Rinicella and Andres Cardenas, the veteran and the rookie for MP Motorsport, sharing the second row of the grid. The American flags fly for Santilok and Garrett Berry, 5th on the grid. Francisco Macedo for Griffincorp, P6. Championship winner in the F4 Spanish Championship last year, Mattia Colnaghi, came into this weekend as the championship leader. He's 7th on the grid alongside the Frenchman Jules Caranta, the Red Bull Junior from Saint-Tropez for Campos as well. Then the Thai Enzo Tarvanichkul, the Mexican Ernesto Rivera, Jesse Cadasquedo, race 1 winner, lining up 11th on the grid. Kasper Stuka, who went from first to 5th on the restart of race 1 and then back up to 3rd. He is there in 12th on the grid for this one, just ahead of his countryman Maciek Gladish, who was 3rd in the championship coming into this weekend. Theodor Jensen, 14th on the grid for Santilok. Then it is 15th on the grid for Yannis Stephen Haydens of GRS, who fought his way to the points in race 1. Then Luciano Morano for Palou, Kai Dadianani for KCL MP, Emo Fittipaldi Jr. for MP, Oscar Wirtz and Preston Lambert, the Drivex teammates. Then Lorenzo Castillo for Santilok, Christian Cantu for Drivex, Edu Robinson making his debut this weekend in EuroCup-3, stepping up from Spanish F4 for DXR. Then Alessandro Famularu making his return to racing, the Venezuelan, here for Drivex. Zach Skula, the Kiwi, for Palou, and then Lenny Reed in the Sparco Palou. Isaac Barashi in his Palou car. Alcifel Benito, the Brazilian teenager who races in the colour scheme of Lightning McQueen when he competes alongside his dad in the Porsche Carrera Cup of Brazil. And then the Hellberg brothers, there they are, Emil and Linus for the Ally Racing team. So it'll be an interesting challenge then here at Portimao. 20 minutes plus 1 lap, reverse grid race in the top 12, and the chance for Below Motorsport to continue their journey in single-seaters. And just a couple of weeks after Alex Palou backed up his 3-time IndyCar Championship title run with the Indy 500 last month, can, as a team principal, he continue his dominant surge in motorsport in 2025 to help and aid his man James Igotzi to the victory? Abkasava, Rinicella and Cardenas will try and take it from him, as will the American Garrett Berry. Lights come on, and for the first time ever in EuroCup-3, the sprint races go! And a fantastic start as a couple of drivers haven't moved at all. One of them is the Red Bull Campos. Oh, couple of big moments off the start, but into the lead goes James Igotzi. They've avoided the 2 stalled cars, and everybody's got away without incident. So James Igotzi leads the way from a trio of orange machines. Abkasava, Rinicella and Cardenas under some pressure. Garrett Berry has already lost the place to Francisco Macedo. Colnaghi into 7th, then Caranta, Rivera, Cadasquedo and Luciano Morano. Enzo Tarvanichkul and Kasper Stuka were the ones who didn't get away. So Kasper Stuka is down at the back of the field. Disarm the championship contender. As the field work their way up the hill for the first time, several cars running wide, trying to stay in this race without incident. But Kasper Stuka did not get away in the same speed as everyone else. And he's down at the back. Enzo Tarvanichkul trying to work his way back through the pack. But for James Igotzi, it's the perfect start for Palou. And now the IndyCar team superstar, who is now a team principal, I should say, here this weekend, is going to have a very tough mission trying to make sure he's got all his fingernails intact by the end of this 20-minute encounter. Around the far side, Valerio Rinicella trying to go wheel-to-wheel with his Peruvian teammate, Andres Cardenas, who gets through. So Andres Cardenas is now under big pressure again from Rinicella, and the door is open. Rinicella can storm through and take back that 3rd position, but he needs to shut the door again before Francisco Macedo comes through, the man who's on home soil. This is exactly what he wanted, and he's through. So Francisco Macedo on home soil is in P4 here at Portimao. Now he can go after the 3rd place man Rinicella, but Cardenas is right with him. Up against the pit wall. Macedo's got a good run to turn 1. Can he go right round the outside? He's going to get there! The home crowd will be ecstatic. Francisco Macedo here in Portugal has got through to 3rd position. There's not the only move on the mark on the inside line. That is Kolnagi, who dives in on Cardenas and gets into 5th position. A great run from the championship leader. Meanwhile, his two great rivals in the championship are out of the points here. Kasper Stuka, 29th. Mönchengladbach, 13th. Oh, and a spin down at the back of the field. That is one of the Polo cars, I believe. So that is Lenny Reed, who's already had one incident over the course of the day, and he's now had a second one. So Lenny Reed's down at the back, I'm afraid. Now, starting procedure under investigation. That's probably because of what happened to Enzo Tarvanichkul and Kasper Stuka, two drivers who basically didn't get away off the start at all. So this is where things are going to start getting interesting. Safety car! Safety car! So there's been another incident on the course by the look of it, and it's Emil Hellberg. So Emil Hellberg, this Swede, looks like he's in trouble somewhere out on the course. We'll try and pick it up. But Emil Hellberg for the LA Racing team. The safety car is called. Well, in a 20-minute race, you don't have much time to fool around with. So the safety car is out. But where is Emil Hellberg's car? He's the reason I think we're under safety car. And that's at Sector 1. So I think he went off at the same place that Lenny Reed did. The safety car is just there at the end of the pit lane on the straight, stationary, waiting for the field to catch it up. But James Igozzi leads Abkasava. Macedo, what a start from the Portuguese man, who is racing on his home circuit, of course. Then Brinicella, Kolnagi doing a great job up to B5 from Cardenas. Then Berry, Rivera, Caranta. And the last point will go to Jesse Carrasquedo, who took the win in race 1. Car 46 in the gravel trap at turn 4. That is what we've been told. And that is Emil Hellberg. So that's at the bottom of the hill, I do believe. So we're under safety car conditions here at Portimao. So I have a feeling that we may get to see what happened to Emil Hellberg, but maybe not. As that camera is in a rather precarious position on the course. This is about where it would have happened for Emil Hellberg. So we need to try and figure out, well, there's the car. It's been abandoned. And that's why we've gone to safety car, of course, because Emil Hellberg no longer in a position to move that car out of the gravel trap. Interestingly, one wheel is out of that gravel trap, so he might have been able to get reverse gear and get it out, but with the other 3 wheels embedded in the gravel, it probably would have been a bit tricky to do. So that gives us a bit of an opportunity then to talk about the race position. Oh, we're going to see a replay. This is at the start. Now, look, we've got Stuka stationary and we've got Tarvanichkul stationary. How did everybody avoid them? That was scary for a couple of the drivers who were unsighted as they got towards them. I've only just recently been shown on social media that botched start for Kimi Räikkönen a couple of years ago. Well, I say a couple of years ago, it's almost 20 years ago now in Formula One, when his race only lasted a few seconds before impact with a stalled car on the grid. It is not easy when you are focused tunnel vision purely for the first apex, when you're trying to work your way through the field and you don't spot the stationary car until the last possible minute when you're charging down the straight. It can be very easy, even for experienced drivers like Kimi Räikkönen, to just miss it altogether. And then you end up striking the car in front without any time to respond. So full credit to the teenagers in this field and the experienced drivers in EUROCUP-3 who have been able to dodge the stationary cars of Enzo Tarvanichkul and Kasper Stuka. Both drivers did get started again, by the way, so Tarvanichkul is in 21st already. Can you believe that? We were only racing under green for 2 laps, and he managed to work his way back to 21st. So he got ahead of Zach Skula, Yannis Stephen Haydens, Isaac Barashi, Alsu Feldman, Linus Hellberg, Alessandro Famolaru, and Lenny Reed before his retirement. So Kasper Stuka was behind him anyway, and Emil Hellberg, of course, retired from the race. But that is astonishing comeback pace from Enzo Tarvanichkul, who made his way past 8 cars in 2 laps. And that is with a stall on the grid. So let's just take that into some context. That is amazing from Enzo Tarvanichkul. Sadly, the safety car has actually prevented him from making quite a lot more progress, because that's going to reduce the run time. But still, excellent effort from the Thai. Of course, was born in Spain, in Marbella, spends much of his time in Spain and Italy, where they have a house where he has been based there predominantly in Italy and Spain through his karting career. And then, of course, being based there anyway, he thought, well, we may as well stay in Spain and race in the F4 Championship. That's where Red Bull have entrusted me with a chance to put on a great show in my career. And that kind of drive, actually, from a stall on the grid to charge back to 21st in 2 laps. I mean, yes, it's embarrassing you've stalled the car, but that's the best possible way to bounce back from it. So let's have a look at the situation now after the first couple of laps. The only championship contender in the points is Mattia Colnaghi. He's in 5th place. We've got Kasper Stuka all the way back in 28th position, I think. Yes, he's down at dead last. The safety car has helped him out because he'll now go right onto the back of Linus Hellberg and Alessandro Famularo, as there is Emil Hellberg's car being recovered by the safety team. Safety car in this lap. So that tells you everything we need to know about when this race is going to get going again. And in the pits, that is the number 3 car of Lenny Reed. So he's managed to get the car recovered after the spin. And they've decided, you know what, let's just get out into the pits and repair the car, get it set up ready for the restart. His race has just started, because by the time he catches up to the rest of the field, they'll probably be restarting the race. So for Lenny Reed, he's got to push like crazy and get back on terms with Kasper Stuka to try and get back onto the back of his train. So big drama in this race already. The restart is about to happen for James Igozzi. Enzo Tarmanichkil and Kasper Stuka stalling at the start, and they have dropped to the back of the field as a result. So now they've got to make a comeback, but James Igozzi in Eurocup 3 is bidding for Below Motorsport's first ever win. Can he do it? He's trying to keep Alex Abkasava and Francisco Macedo guessing. This is going to be a long wait. Now he's dropped the hammer. He's gone for it. And this could be a good restart from Rinicella. Right in behind Macedo as they go up the straight and up the crest. It's going to be an interesting one further back as well, as here in Portimao in the Eurocup 3, the first ever sprint race. We go green, 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 and down to the first corner. It's going to be a tough one. Here comes Rinicella. He's going to go side by side with Macedo, who cuts his nose across as they go into the braking zone. Side by side, the 2 MP teammates. Further back, one goes up in the air. That looked to me like Mattia Colnaghi running wide. So Rinicella goes through, or was it Cardenas running wide initially? It was, in fact, Cardenas who ran wide. So as the field works its way through, oh, that's contact. 3 cars in together. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, that's going to be another safety car. And what have we said time and time again? Safety cars breed safety cars. That's Darianani, Wirtz, and Jensen. So Kai Darianani, Oscar Wirtz of Drivex, and the Santalok of Theodor Jensen, they have come together and they're not going anywhere. Safety car will be called yet again. Safety cars breed safety cars, and James Igozzi lives to fight another day in the lead. Now there's 3 cars to move. If one of them can be cleared, maybe the other 2 can keep going because they're not switched off. But the safety car has to be called because the track is practically blocked. So now it's essentially a case of, has anybody still got power in their car and a car that's able enough to keep going? Because they might all be able to limp back to the pits. So there are the 3 cars stationary. Well, one of them is trying to get out. That is Kai Darianani, who's trying to get out of the KCL MP car. I can't get this car going again, says Darianani. I don't think I can either, says Oscar. Are you kidding, says Theodor. There's no way I can move. So this has got shades of Monaco 96, doesn't it? With Hakkinen, Salo and Irvine. Oh, clumsy on the curbs on the way in. Oh yeah, 3 cars there are going to be too damaged to continue. Jensen was on the inside of Oscar Wirtz. He went airborne into Wirtz. Wirtz has got a broken suspension on the right front, I think. And then Kai Darianani is an innocent victim on the outside. I think what you've got there is a case of 3 cars that is going no further. Well, there you are. Very unfortunate indeed for Kai Darianani, Oscar Wirtz and Theodor Jensen, but it looks like all 3 of them are going to be A-OK. That is the best view in the house if you're a spectator on the grandstand. Oh dear, yeah, big drama, unfortunately then, for all 3 drivers in this race. That is not the way this race was supposed to play out. And unfortunately, it's all gone horribly wrong. So now the contenders... The contenders have now got to continue round the course and avoid the 3 cars stationary at turn 3. And so the Portimao sprint race will continue without them. And that takes the retirement tally up from 1 to 4. So a very dramatic and very disappointing end to the race for all of them. That is not what they were hoping for in the slightest. But there's not very much that the drivers can do about this, I'm afraid. So back into the race, the drivers are now expecting to go. But this is getting very nervy for James Igotzi, who is once again in the lead, as he was at the start, as he was after the first safety car period. Now he's got another safety car period to manage, but he's in the lead of the race. This is so much tension to carry for the young man from Hollywood in Florida, rather than the Hollywood you all know about in California. But this man has got such potential to win in this race. And of course, winning this race means that he would have a chance to give the Palou Motorsport team their first ever victory in single-seaters. They only compete in 2 championships, to my knowledge, Spanish F4 and EUROCUP-3, and they have yet to win a race in either. This is their best chance to do it. So we could have a very interesting restart here in the Portimao sprint race. The first time we've ever had this race in EUROCUP-3. Look at Guy Darianani, who's just watching it all unfold at the sidelines there. Oh no, wait, sorry, that's not Guy Darianani watching on, is it? That is Oscar Wirtz, who doesn't want to go to the sidelines. He can't quite believe his race is over. So busy watching what's going on, rather than actually getting out of harm's way. Well, big disaster from his point of view. He didn't really want to be in a situation where he was down and out of it. But I'm afraid that's exactly where the racing gods have told him to be. You're out of this one, sunshine. Sorry. So as the drivers make their way around the course then, in the hope that eventually the safety car is going to go back into the pits once again. And James Igotzi is going to have a lead that he and the Palou team can bank on heading to the next phase of this race. The screech of the tyres as the safety car is literally being pushed to its ragged edge. But the EuroCup-3 drivers are just sitting, waiting for the command that they will go back into the race once again. So safety car is out on track at the moment. And the contenders are going to have a very interesting rejoin of this race. Could be fascinating to see if James Igotzi can hold this to give the team their first ever victory. Cars are being manoeuvred by the rescue teams. The 19 of Theodor Jensen caught out, unfortunately. So even though James Igotzi was a race winner in the Spanish Winter Championship, they have yet to take a victory in the EuroCup-3 main body of the season. So they will have had a little taste of victory, but in the main championship, they have yet to take a victory. And so this is their chance to add that stat to their list. But look at the time. We are running out of time. 4 minutes and 40 left as one of the marshals decides he's going to hotwire the car himself. Of course he's not doing that. He's adjusting the cable to the halo to make it easier to maneuver the car. But the easiest way to do that is to get into the car and make sure that the steering wheel is incorrectly so that it can be maneuvered. It does to a certain eye look as though he's helping to hotwire the thing. That's not the case. There is Oscar Wirtz getting his way back to the pits on the back of the marshal's bike. But all of those 20 minutes are being sapped up. So there's only going to be a couple of laps left for James Igotzi to hold on. And that's really unfortunate for Alex Abkasaba, whose advantage of tyres is not really going to come into effect because there's not going to be enough racing laps for it to do so. And what a shame that that trio of drivers bringing out the safety car, Kai Darianani, Theodor Jensen, and that man, Oscar Wirtz. What a shame that that is going to end up causing a problem. Now, for those of you who are there as fans of Oscar Wirtz, looking at his helmet going, why did he have a Union flag on the side of his car? Well, I can tell you the answer to that one, because he is half Austrian and half English. His mother, Julia, is English originally. They hold great heritage, the Wirtz family, with their Austrian and English roots. Julia Wirtz, of course, as well as being a very experienced PR personnel within the racing grid, is also a very regarded novelist. And she actually wrote a fantastic Formula One style story, which is worth going and finding if you can. Super Ego, I think it's called. I think I read it about 3 years ago on an aeroplane. It was a very good read if you're a motor racing fan. Definitely worth Googling Julia Vert's book and go and read that. It's potentially going to be a better plot than the F1 movie with Brad Pitt. Did I say that out loud? So James Igozzi, Alex Abkasava and Francisco Macedo. That's your top three as we go into another lap with the safety car. That's the problem with having 3 cars to recover in one go. So this is going to run out of time. But the safety car is coming in now. So they've left it very late to tell the drivers. But that's so that they can have a 2-lap sprint. And it is going to be a 2-lap sprint for James Igozzi. He's going to have it very tough to control the pace. When will he go for the green? He's got to time it right. He's got to make sure that the concertina effect works in his advantage. It's green flag conditions, but James Igozzi hasn't gone for it yet. He's going to leave it very late at the bottom of the hill. And still weaving. God, this is going to be such a difficult restart for James Igozzi to manage because he's going to have to accelerate up the crest. Here he goes. Has he done this right or has he got it wrong? We're about to find out. Abkasava is going to be on him like a ton of bricks. It's green, 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 green here at Portimao. 1 minute, 25 seconds left on the clock, plus the additional lap in the first ever sprint race in the main championship of EUROCUP-3 here at Portimao. And it's absolute skittles down to turn 1. Side by side, the 2 Red Bull Juniors, as around the outside of Ernesto Rivera, goes Gil Caranta. Up the inside of the 33 of Andres Cardenas, that is Rivera, trying to work his way further forward. Maciej Gladic is trying to get into the points, and Jesse Carrasquedo completely hoodwinked Berry, Caranta and Cardenas, and has got into P6. So excellent work on the restart from Jesse Carrasquedo. He's going to score big in this one as well as he goes side by side with Garrett Berry in the Santalock. And Santalocks, Garrett Berry goes right around the outside, but he has to yield as there's no way that's a legal overtake on Jesse Carrasquedo. He knew it. He backed out of it. The 2 Campos Juniors round the outside. I think the Red Bull Juniors may have collided. I think they collided. Yes, they haven't come through. Caranta and Cardenas, I'm fairly sure they collided with each other there at the top of the hill. So Caranta and Cardenas, Caranta and Rivera have collided with each other at the top of the hill, and now they're going no further. The Campos cars are out. If you are 2 Red Bull Juniors in the Red Bull Academy, the one thing you don't want to do when Helmut Marko is watching is pull the Webber and Vettel collision. Oh, it's like Ricciardo and Verstappen in Baku all over again for the juniors. And I'm afraid Caranta and Rivera are out of this race, but we're going to go into the final lap. And Igozzi is leading the way for Below. This will be their 3rd victory as a team, but their 1st in the EuroCup-3 main championship challenge. But we've still got some great racing down the pit straight. Up to the inside comes Rinicella, side by side with Macedo. Thank you very much, I'll take you. No, you won't, says Francisco Macedo. I'm on my home circuit, I'm not going to let you have this. He holds the inside line beautifully as he cuts back across. And so Francisco Macedo holds his nerve in front of Rinicella. So Colnaghi in 5th place, then Carrasquedo, Garrett Berry, Andres Cardenas. Maciej Gladic is now 9th in front of Morano. And in 11th position is Enzo Tarnvanitschkel. That's the man who stalled at the start. Can you believe he's in 11th position? Take into context the fact that we were on the safety car for almost 10 minutes. And that is extraordinary. So Enzo Tarnvanitschkel, what a comeback to 11th place. He may still steal a point off Morano before the end. That is unbelievable. So out in front, Below Motorsport may have tasted victory in the Winter Championship, but in the main series itself, they were yet to win before today. James Igozzi has controlled the pace on the restart on both occasions, and he has stretched away from Alex Abkasava when it counted most. So now the young man from Hollywood in Florida in the United States is going to finish the job in style. It may not be Hollywood, California, but he's put on a drive worthy of Hollywood today as James Igotzi comes out of the final turn. And in a season when Palou has won the Indy 500 as a driver, as a team principal, he finally gets a EuroCup-3 main championship win in the first ever sprint race at Portimao with James Igotzi. Fantastic for James Igotzi. He gets Palou Motorsports' first win in the main EuroCup-3 season after the 2 Winter Championship successes back in February. Abkasava second, and Francisco Macedo, the Portuguese driver, gets a podium on home turf. Absolutely brilliant. It's a weekend of firsts. Igotzi, first win in EuroCup-3's main season. Same for the team, Palou Motorsport. Alex Abkasava gets his first podium of the season at the race where he took his first win. And Francisco Macedo gets a podium on his first race, on his second race, at home in his first weekend racing in EuroCup-3 at Portugal. 4th place for Rinnicella, 5th place for Kolnagi. That's great news for him in the championship. His 2 main rivals, Stuka and Gladish, did not score as well. Gadiscado P6, Garrett Berry P7, Andres Cardenas P8, Maciej Gladish P9, and in 10th position, take a bow, Enzo Tarnvinichkul. Stalled at the start, and in 10 minutes of green flag running maximum, he went from the back of the grid to 10th. That is extraordinary. If you are Helmut Marko, you are looking at that performance and thinking to yourself, hang on a minute, that's a lad worth noting, that is. Emo Fittipaldi and Luciano Morano just missing out on the points. Kasper Stuka, so unfortunate. He ended up 25th and last. The reason we didn't go to safety car was that although Gilles Caranta and Ernesto Rivera did collide with each other, they both were able to get going again. Gilles Caranta finished 23rd and Ernesto Rivera finished 26th in the pit lane, a lap away. But worrying signs for Kasper Stuka after stalling. He did not overtake a single car in his Griffin Court. So he was not able to make any progress at all. And that's worrying, actually, if you're Kasper Stuka and you're not able to make up any progress. Okay, there were only about 10 minutes of green flag running, but Enzo Tarnvinichkul was able to go from the back to 10th. Kasper Stuka didn't pass a single car. So James Igotzi finishes in P1. The promise of his winter campaign is continued in the Summer Championship, the main EuroCup-3 Championship. And just a month after Alex Palou won the Indy 500 for the first time, now his team has won a race in the main EuroCup-3 Championship that they compete in for the first time. James Igotzi's first win in EuroCup-3. And you'll be not surprised in the slightest that he also took the rookie win. 4 different races in EuroCup-3 this year and 4 different race winners. Mattia Kolnagi, Maciej Gladish, Jesse Gadiscado, and now James Igotzi. I tell you what, this sprint race, it's brilliant. I'll happily take it. Okay, 10 minutes of it were behind the safety car, but we certainly get a very different podium to what we've had in the first 3 races of the season. And Palou Motorsport will be ecstatic that they have taken a race victory in the main season after their 2 wins in the Winter Championship. Big thank you to the Night Avenger on YouTube for pointing that one out to us. But it has been fantastic to see these great competitors duel on the circuit once again. Matti Kolnagi, that's the best of our job. That's 5th position, and that's 6 points. So that will do his championship no end of good, with Maciej Gladish only scoring 2 and Kasper Stuka not scoring at all. Here's Alex Garcia with our newest race winner, 4 from 4. This time it's James Igotzi.
Exactly, 4 races, 4 race winners. The latest, James Igotzi. James, were you expecting that when you started that sprint race with all the Lions behind you, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a sea of orange behind me with all the MPs, but no, we worked hard over this weekend and especially today to get our speed back, and I was fairly confident that we were going to at least get the speed back. And luckily, no surprises. Unfortunately, a little bit boring with all the safety cars, but overall, we did the right job. And short race, not too much else to say.
More than anything, especially as you said, there was a lot of time behind the safety cars, so there's not much to say. But I do have a question. Do you think that can translate into tomorrow's race, tomorrow qualifying, and the rest of the season? Why not?
Yeah, well, that's the goal. I mean, we basically use these laps to prepare for tomorrow. And yeah, big thank you to everybody who's a part of this team. And let's get them tomorrow. I believe that we can make some more steps and get our pace for tomorrow.
And one of the last few weeks for Palou name in general. Indy 500 winner. I know that as an American that means something special. And now winning the first race for the team in the regular season, not too bad.
Yeah, I have big shoes to fill because Alex keeps winning, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for him. I'm just going to do what he does, copy and monkey see, monkey do.
That's the way. Time to enjoy it. Congratulations and good luck for tomorrow.
Yeah, me and Alex will enjoy this.
Yep, enjoy it. That's the key. Me and Alex will enjoy this. I could enjoy it as well because I like enjoying new winners, but I think he was, of course, talking about the big boss, Alex Palou himself, who, of course, is hot on the heels of winning the Indy 500, and now he's already winning with his own team. What a life, winning as a driver, winning as a team owner.
Yeah, that is a big moment for Alex Palou. As much as it is a joy to see him winning in IndyCar, and this year has been a dominant one for Alex Palou over the course of this season, with the Indy 500 notwithstanding. But as a team owner, as a team principal, to continue that legacy with the junior drivers, it will almost feel more special to him than some of his IndyCar victories. It's so much harder as a boss running an outfit, running a team, to get everybody together, especially when you're going up against the might of MP and Campos in their prime. It is a big, big moment for the team and for James Igozzi, for Palou Motorsport as well in general. Alex Garcia, that's a big moment for the championship as well. It's been very much MP and Campos all the way. So for Palou to get a victory in the main body of the season, that tells everybody you can win if you get the job done right.
Yes, that's exactly what we were talking about before the race, isn't it? The teams have been doing a good job. Palou Motorsport has been doing a great job. So, of course, being able to show that they can do it is going to be inspiring for the rest of the teams as well, because they know that these teams can be beaten, and they have been. This was a sprint race, so there's a slight difference compared to the usual races, but there is still a race, a sprint race as well in Paul Ricard, and the season's very long. So if you make you have a good qualifying, they will see if you're at the front, you can hold on to that position, and that's, I think, the best takeaway of this sprint race today. It's been exciting despite the presence of the 10-minute safety car in total.
That's very true, and I think a lot of fans are going to feel a little bit robbed. I feel a little bit cheated out of what could have been a fantastic race by half of it being behind the safety car. And I know that all of the red-blooded motorsport fans out there, be they male or female, would have wanted to see that go from green to checkered the whole way. But that does give us an indication that the format does have its place. And if you don't do it at every round, you add something a little bit unfamiliar into the wake of the championship, it does intensify things. When we get to Paul Ricard, as long as everybody plays fairly and plays correctly, we could have a very, very interesting 20-minute sprint.
Yes, we know that Paul Ricard is always a circuit that allows for this kind of action, even if it's a shorter race. We saw it last year with both series, so I'm expecting to see it this time around. Of course, it's still too early. We will still have one more race tomorrow to go for these guys, but they've shown that the excitement is there. And now they will be just a little bit more familiar with the format because they've done it now, and so when they come back to it, it'll be recent, fresh in their minds.
We didn't get much to talk about because of the lack of green flag running, but there are two names, let's say three names actually, that I want to talk about in addition to Igozzi and Abkasaba. Francisco Macedo clearly had a point to prove today, third position for him as a rookie in Portugal at his home circuit. That is a brilliant, brilliant result for Francisco Macedo. He can be very, very happy indeed with that. Matti Kolnagi, that was actually a champion's drive that went very under the radar there. Fifth position when his two main rivals were not scoring. That's pretty incredible when you consider just how important that could end up being for the championship by the end of the year. And Enzo Tarvanichko stalled at the start, P10 at the flag, with only 10 minutes of green flag running. If you're Helmut Marko looking at that, you're thinking, that's another top talent for the future.
Absolutely, I have to agree. Of course, with the first two drivers you mentioned, with Macedo and Kolnagi, but Tarvan equally is almost impossible to understand. One would have to take a look at that onboard camera and study it for future drivers to come, because there was no time to do it, and still he made it that far. That is, honestly, if you allow me the expression, that was a pretty ballsy race for sure.
Fantastic. Alex Garcia, thank you so much for your input today. We know you've got another great race to come tomorrow and 2 more F4 Spanish Championship races as well. Thanks for all your help and all your input. We will see you tomorrow. Get some rest, my friend.
See you tomorrow, Jake. Looking forward to it.
I think it's the first time, certainly, I'm trying to think back if there has been an American winner in the EUROCUP-3's main body of the championship season. I'm not sure there has, so it'll be fabulous to hear the Star Spangled Banner for James Zigotsi, the young man from Hollywood in Florida. Then we have the man from Kazakhstan who did a fantastic job last year to come home for the victory. He will come second on this occasion. And then here in Portugal, to have a Portuguese flag on the podium for Francisco Macedo. That's very fitting indeed, and I'm sure that the crowd who came to see the race here today, whether they're on the top of the gantry or whether they're in the grandstands, there are a couple of grandstands open for this weekend, but they'll be delighted to see a home favourite, Francisco Macedo, come through for a podium celebration. I'm afraid we couldn't see the podium celebrations earlier on because of the tightly packed schedule, but as this is the last race of today's schedule, we do have time to bring you the EuroCup-3 podium. If you do want to see more detailed footage of the podium ceremonies, you can do that via our social media channels. The Palou Motorsport team picking up the victory. Unfortunately, that is not Alex Palou. That is one of the mechanics. Alex is very busy out in America, as always. And in second position, behind James Zigotsi will be Alex Abkasava, but Francisco Macedo on the podium in third position. He'll be delighted with that. And there goes the man in second position on the grid, Alex Abkasava. You're probably wondering why Matti Kolnagi is there. Well, he's also going to be on the podium for the rookies category behind Zigotsi and Macedo after this. But James Zigotsi gives Palou Motorsport their first victory in the main body of the EuroCup-3 season. And so, in deference to him, we'll hear the Star Spangled Banner for the United States of America. And as he rightly told Alex Garcia after the race, James Zigotsi will be enjoying this one with his team principal, Alex Palou. Indy 500 win in May, team principal taking a EuroCup-3 victory in June. What else is there for Alex Palou to do in motorsport in 2025? I wonder if he can quickly get himself onto the Le Mans grid in a couple of weeks' time. Who knows? But there's a fantastic end to this season for Alex Palou. Whatever happens this year, he can say he won the Indy 500. And a month later, his young charge, James Zigotsi, was able to take the team's first EuroCup-3 championship race victory. They won in the Spanish Winter Championship earlier in the year, of course, twice over the course of the winter. Good run from Francisco Macedo on home turf in third, and for Alex Abkasava, who got a victory here last year. But James Zigotsi finally puts Palou in the winner's circle in EuroCup-3. Excellent work. And so now the MP and Campos domination has been blipped by Palou Motorsport. How long is it going to take before Santalok get another crack at the top spot? What can GRS or Drivex do to get back into the mix? It's going to be a fabulous battle tomorrow for the third and final race of the EuroCup-3 second round of 2025. Kolnagi scores big in fifth position. Gladish scores ninth to come home for 2 points. Kasper Stucker doesn't score at all. He will want to forget today pretty quickly. Even though he got a podium in race one, it could have been a win, and then a 25th in the sprint race. He will want something big from race two tomorrow. They can do it all again in qualifying to reset the weekend, but now it's time for Francisco Macedo, Alex Abkasava, and James Zigotsi to celebrate rather quietly, it has to be said. They're not going to do a big party celebration this time because it looks to me as though they want to save their overalls for tomorrow. But from all of us here at Eurocup 3, we are excited at the first ever sprint race. It may not have been green flag all the way, but we certainly got 3 very different faces on the podium. And tomorrow, normal service will be resumed. But can we have 5 different race winners from the first 5 races of 2025? From myself, Jake Sanson, from Alex Garcia, from the whole crew at the Killite Agency, we will be back tomorrow to continue the journey for Eurocup 3 2025. Can we get 5 out of 5? Tune in tomorrow to find out.